Hi, Andrea Waddell here. Welcome to the studio. I'm an abstract and a semi-abstract painter based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome. In today's video, I'm going to problem solve composition and color in the painting that you see behind me and bring you along for that process and talk to you about as many elements of what I'm thinking about as I'm going through it. I hope you get something from watching this video. If you would like any of the prompts or any of the things that I'm talking about, like this little prompt sheet about things that I'm specifically thinking about when I am working on composition, that's in the notes below. And if you're interested in any of my live oil and cold wax classes, you can find all of that information as well as my online classes. So getting started with this painting, this is something tricky that happens, is I was inspired by this beautiful, gorgeous image, and I loved the colors, and that was my starting place. And so, I was attracted to the colors because they are not the colors that I would gravitate to naturally. I often go towards violets and yellows, and I found that as an artist, if I push myself past what I'm naturally comfortable with in terms of color, the skill level and the excitement and the challenge of it makes my paintings better. So the problem that happened though, was I got way too close to this original composition. So I'm going to break that up today, put this image maybe aside for now, and I'm going to keep working on it because the composition as it is it's just too close. It looks like an interior without bringing my own touch to it, which is something that one of my teachers told me a long time ago. If you copy someone's work or if you copy an image or anything that you just get too close to it, it just doesn't feel good. And it's taken me years to understand that's exactly right. It does not feel good. You don't feel like you've accomplished much, but you've learned from the process. Okay, so as you've maybe heard me talk about this before, talking about when you're thinking about composition, we're thinking about these elements that I talked about here, which is, we're not doing all of them all at once, but we're thinking about finding differences in shapes, that's what I'm going to be focusing on. Differences in value, lines, that's also what I'm going to be focusing on. Edges, texture, color, it's these kind of elements are the fundamentals of the composition, and all of that allows you to find your voice and create balance and etc. And there's something else before I jump in and I don't think about these things and I just act intuitively. But I wanted to talk to you about something I talk about in my classes all the time, is trying to use your creativity to find examples of contrasts. Because finding variety in the shapes, in the lines, in the color, that's the most important piece of it. Here are some prompts, like you can have you're always thinking about finding something that is different. Thick paint next to flat, thin paint. Textured areas next to no textured areas. Complementary colors on top of each other, adjacent to each other, etc. There's just, flexing your creativity to find your own examples of contrasts to create interesting composition. So that's just something I wanted to point out, and that is often what I talk about and point out in classes, live classes. I have one coming up in Santa Barbara. We're going to do a 4-day oil and cold wax retreat, and that's going to be amazing. At the end of May. Okay, so the next thing that I can talk about is, this is an oil and cold wax, and it's a very dry surface, but it's like it's been setting up for months. So there's some things that you can do when things are very dry that you can't do when the oil and cold wax is not dry, and that is using alcohol inks. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So in the composition, I'm just gonna focus now on color and shape and kind of this great big thing down here. I'm gonna try to find other places to put it. And I'm gonna go into play stage now, which means I'm gonna experiment, I'm gonna try stuff. It might get chaotic, it might get messy, I don't know. But the play stage is where you need to go back to. If you get to a place of, oh my God, I don't know what to do next, what should I do next? That means you might want to just go back into play, which means you're not thinking deliberately about anything, not analyzing. All right, so I've got this alcohol ink. And what I can do, so I've decided I want more blue. I had to decide, do I want more green or do I want more blue? And I decided I want more blue. So I can literally take this ink and drop it down. It creates a very interesting quality. Look at that beautiful blue. So yeah, I'm going to play with my colors, I'm going to play with my pigments. I'm going to use a lot of different blues with raw pigment and my oil and cold wax. So I'm going to get them ready. I got these in France, isn't that glorious? It's an Yves Klein blue. I'm going to work with these. Would you pass me that? The advantage of working with raw pigment like this is they are intensely colored. So I just take them out. I'm going to take each of these out. You can move that out of the way. Get this blue. These are my Sennelier pigments. This is a cerulean. I have had these for 10 years, over 10 years. And I'm finally at the end of it. So these, a little bit goes a very, very long way. Very, very long way. For these. Last year when I was in France running my artist retreat, there were still a couple of spots left for that. This year, I broke down and I got this beautiful blue. Not that you can't get raw pigments here in the US, but I'm just more familiar with the ones in France. And there's a spot that sells them for not very much money at all. Okay, so as soon as possible, things become safe as soon as there's no volatility. In other words, as soon as the pigment is mixed in with, right now I'm using Galkid Light Gel. As soon as it's mixed in, then there's the issues of safety and potentially inhaling this stuff get better. So I'm just kind of trying to. Usually linseed oil is better, but I'm using Galkid Gel right now because I'm going to mix my Galkid Gel in with my cold wax, and I have a feeling that that's going to make a better mix because I'm afraid that if I use linseed oil, it's going to be too fatty. But traditionally, if I weren't doing oil and cold wax medium, if I wasn't using that medium, I'd be mixing these with linseed oil. The thing about painting that's really important is to be organized. And I was just about to start, and I looked over here, and this part is all organized, and this part is not at all. So it's important to set yourself up so that you don't lose things, or you're not grabbing at things, can't find them. So my setup is my palette. I know I'll probably need another palette or two. And then any colors that I think that I might need, I push them out. So whether I'm filming for a YouTube video like this, or whether I'm working by myself, I do this. I have found that I do better work if I just take a little bit of time to set myself up so I'm not grabbing at stuff as I'm trying to figure out composition and as I'm trying to figure out color, because all of that takes so much energy. So for today's video, I think that I'm going to be using this color, I'm going to be using those colors. I always have my whites. I'm going to use a little alcohol ink. I'm not sure about this. Everybody else goes in there. The transfer techniques, which means I'm going to apply paint onto a waxy surface, and then I'm going to apply from here to the painting. I've got some wax paper set up for some shapes, different qualities, different kinds of shapes, building in contrasts. And then I might want to create a mask of some kind with a piece of paper like this. And I'm not sure, but I'm just going to cut out a shape. I can either use Citrusol or Gamsol. I'm going to put my Gamsol in here and make sure I have a cover for it so I'm not breathing in fumes. So I've dipped this in my Gamsol, and I'm going to try some lines, the same thing with my Citrusol. Solve, as opposed to Gamsol, looks like this, and this will cut through layers of paint, I want to say 4 or 5 times more than the Gamsol does. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. This is always, you never know when you do this kind of solvent reduction if it's going to work out or not. Okay, so now there, you can see these little baby shadow lines when I lift it. The problem I'm having, and I had a feeling I might have this problem, is this line is dug in, and it's really pretty deep. So if I want to deal with that, I'm going to bring in my marble dust. And again, if I weren't filming, I would be wearing a mask, because what I need to deal with that is paint that's just much, much thicker. So I'm going to put this over here, pull in some marble dust. This is how you deal with texture that's just not working. Put in your marble dust. Mix those two together. A good rule of thumb is when you're when you're working with a palette knife, clean it. Clean both sides of it before you use it. Otherwise, it's not going to have the flexibility, you're not going to control it in the same way, so it's just a good practice. Lay this on top. And that's the way I'm going to get rid of those lines. Because I don't want that, I want to get away from this. I don't want to have that. I want to have more organic shape. But I love the way that color reads on here. It's great. I don't want that there. Yeah. Creates an interesting edge quality. Another thing that you can use when it's very dry is you can use your pastel, your dry pastel, for those beautiful lines. Another thing, I'm thinking about looking for differences in temperature. So the whole painting, except for the blue bit, is kind of warm, which is what makes it so exciting. I want to lighten it up, cool it off. A lot of painting is just sitting here and mixing. I love these little things, but I know they're there, so I will find them again. Transfer some of them on. Transfer, I'm going to put them on here. This interesting thing over here. This is another way that you can apply pigment. Directly. So when I'm thinking about shapes, I'm thinking about the edges of these shapes. It's pretty, but there's more alcohol. Break it up. So I am going through the ugly phase of I don't know what's happening here. That's how you get to something exciting. And the trick too is letting it set up, giving it time to set up so that you can just keep adding. I mean, my goal today was to get away from the original image. That color is beautiful on top of that color. Another trick that I have in the studio is when I have done something that I really like this composition here, this painting, I have it close to me so that I am prompted to remember what the experience was of creating this, and this went through many messy stages before it came to be. So I always have a painting that I have liked the process, it's resolved, I always have it sitting here to remind me. What I'm doing here is I am deliberately pushing away from the composition that I had that was too close to my image. And so I have put myself into a state of chaos. And one of the, a really important principle in building up abstract compositions, or any compositions really, is the ability to take risks. And the risk was I could have kept tweaking at it and gotten it closer to this, but it wasn't working for me because it wasn't meaningful to me. I didn't take that picture, I wasn't in the place where the picture was taken, I'm just attracted to the colors because those are resonant with something for me. So now I'm in chaos, and I'm comfortable there, I've been there a lot, and that is, to answer the question that I get all the time in classes of what should I do next, take a risk. At the risk of wrecking something, you will also discover. So right now I've got this broken up into kind of warm colors and these cool colors and just kind of finding my way playing. When I'm working, I'm not composing and thinking. The composing and the thinking is when I step away. When I'm working, it's just instinct and, you know, sort of knowledge of being able to say kind of right away, I like this or I don't like that. So I don't like this color. I'm gonna get rid of it. I don't like these lines. You know, when you're doing sort of process-driven abstraction, which means the abstract composition comes through the process of adding and subtracting, that's really what you're doing. It's like, what do I like, what do I don't like, what's missing, what do I have too much of? Those kinds of questions. And this green that this became doesn't work with what I have over here. And what's not working is just this half-half. Now I have half cool, half warm. So I'm gonna break that up. And right now what I'm doing is I'm just adding color. So I'm not pulling back yet. I will, which is the beauty of cold wax. Right now I'm just getting some color on. In fact, I might even kind of looking at what I like and what I don't like. And inevitably, in my experience doing this, I have been to Morocco, so there's something through the process of creating this piece, something inside of me will come out. And it's when you get to the place that is something inside of you that comes out, then you're closer to experiencing your personal voice. And that's the thing that feels really good. And it's also the thing that attracts attention of buyers or galleries, etc. But you gotta be comfortable in the chaos. I like the direction of this. This thing is not the right color. I like it as a shape over here, but it's not the right color, but I can let that set up overnight and then I can put a really nice glaze on that. But what I like is it's going in this kind of direction. I can tone that down. I mean, what I'm doing now is that something's happened that I like. So anything that distracts from what I like, and I like this, and this is without stepping back from it, anything that distracts from that, I want to get rid of it, or tone it down. So this great big thing here is just too much. I'm going to remove it with my tissue paper. Now I've got a couple of things going. From just playing and experimenting, I have this I like, this I like, this is not the right color, but I like the shape. The direction, I think that this color works well with these kind of blues. And I've broken it up, but I've kind of kept the same color scheme going. So that's about as far as I can take this for the day. It will need to, you know, I might poke around at it a little bit more, but it needs some time to set up. So that's what I can say about working on dry surfaces, breaking up a composition, being in sort of play stage, giving it time to set up, and I'll show you my progress. This looks like a tooth. Oh no. It totally looks like a tooth. No, I mean really when you look at it the next day, you will start to see things that you don't want, so I don't want a tooth. But you're doing in this phase of it is you're trying to just play until a composition or anything starts to emerge. And as soon as it does, then you're responding to it. I hope you got something from watching this video. This is Andrea Waddell, and be sure to subscribe, give us a like, and we'll see you next time.